Just learning to think is a
Mhm.
skill. I mean, having to do hard things and learn hard things and memorize hard, all of this is building muscle. You'll never regret having gotten a good education.
Mhm.
God made a big world and there's so much to learn, and not to give up and say, well, I'm just going to be doing dishes. No, actually, if you want to help a man who is well-educated, he's going to need a well-educated wife.
Mhm.
And if you want your husband to be challenged in a good way, encouraged in a good way, you need a wife who knows how to do that.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Rooted Home podcast. I am so excited and honored to have Nancy Wilson with us today. Nancy, thank you so much for being here.
Well, thank you. Great to be here, Lauren.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited to talk about several things today, but the big thing is that your book has come out, Future Women, and that's one that I was very, very excited to see that you were, that has come out. So before we get into that, can you tell us a bit about who you are and your family and your background?
Sure. Happy to. So I grew up in a military family. My dad was Air Force. We were Protestants on the military base, but not really saved people. We were Americans, and Americans were Protestant or Catholic. That was the culture we lived in. And then in college is when I really started thinking about what I believed, because college things come up, you know?
Yeah.
And professors were so negative and so despairing and hopeless. And it was during that time the Lord just sent a messenger through my sister. She was the one that first was converted and shared with me. So I was converted after my junior year of college. My husband, Doug, grew up in a really solid, godly Christian home, and we didn't meet for a while. I'm so glad I didn't meet him before. So anyway, I was converted in 73, graduated in 74, and then as time went on, through a lot of circumstances that the Lord really arranged, I started working with InterVarsity as associate staff and working in a Christian bookstore that Doug's dad ran. And it was an evangelistic, not-for-profit bookstore on Main Street. And it was just right up my alley. So the reason that worked out, InterVarsity wouldn't take me on as staff because I hadn't been a Christian long enough. I'd only been a Christian a year and a half. But they made a deal with Jim, my father-in-law, that if I could work for him and he could sort of oversee my progress, that I could come on associate staff. So I had 2 jobs. Neither had a salary. So I learned about trusting the Lord to pay the rent and everything else.
Yeah.
And that was the way Doug grew up, in a family like that, that was trusting the Lord. He has great stories of his parents have great stories, and he doesn't remember all of them because he was a little kid, but he remembers the stories because they told them so well. But at any rate, that's how I met Doug when he was home from leave in the Navy. We met briefly, and I guess his mom put in a good word for me. So for that, I am indebted.
She liked you.
She liked me. We were good friends.
Oh, that's
And
great.
so we got married the last day of 1975. So we celebrated our 50th this last December.
Oh,
We have 3
happy
kids.
50th. That's a big one.
Thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you. It definitely is a big one.
That's awesome.
So we have 3 kids, 18 grandkids, and now 5 great grandkids and 2 more on the way.
Wow.
So it's really remarkable to get to see, just the Lord working downstream as well as upstream, the stories that went before us and the ones on the other side that we're seeing with our eyes. So, we're just really grateful. So I quit working in the bookstore. I became the manager eventually, And then I could not wait to get home. The bigger I got, pregnant with Becca. And so anyway, I got home about a month before she was born. And then there we were off on a wild ride of having children. We had 3 in 5 years, we had 3. And then we started thinking about educating them and what we were going to do. And I remember saying, honey, I can't see just handing her off to an unbeliever and saying, here she is, educate her. And homeschooling, we had never heard of. And I think it was probably just getting started around the same time that we were getting started with.
Yeah, you mean start like homeschool just started, period?
It was just starting. Yes.
Okay. I knew it just became cool, but I didn't know when it actually started.
It was actually starting way back then. And so Logos opened in 1980, and we got going. Doug got to work on it right away after I made that comment. He said, don't worry, I'll get a Christian school started.
Whoa.
Just like that. And we had never thought about
receive.
it. Yeah. So he met with friends. They started praying and researching. And he remembered reading an article by Dorothy Sayers had been reprinted in National Review, which he had taken since high school. He had been a subscriber. So he went to the U of I library and had to go look it up in the, guide to periodicals and all that and find the article called The Lost Tools of Learning by Dorothy Sayers. And he made a Xerox copy. I mean, that's what it was like. And it just seemed like such a good idea. So that's how Logos got started, and the classical Christian movement really, he tried it. We tried it, and it worked. It was amazing. But this is not a podcast about education. But that was a big part of what we were doing, was helping start the school. I remember Doug getting home one night at 11 after, I guess they were probably framing the basement of a church we were going to rent. And I said, oh, you're home early tonight. So it was just volunteer labor and getting everything going. And so we were very busy. I ended up teaching there after all of our kids were there at the school. I used to joke that we were homeschooling. We were just doing it at Logos.
Yeah, basically.
So Doug was teaching different classes, just trying to cover the bases. So, and then they grew up, and then they got married, and it's all been very fast. But
you just made it sound very fast.
Well, and the church started around the same time. Okay. So we've just been in it since the beginning.
Were you in your 20s when he started the school?
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Bold. We were newbies.
Bold and ambitious.
We were both at the meeting to form our church, although we weren't together, but we had met. We knew each other, but we were at the same meeting of about, probably 10 or 12 people to start our church. And it was a spinoff of a church his dad was preaching at, but it was getting too big, and we started one in Moscow. So Doug was the song leader. And then after a year and a half or so in, our pastor said he wouldn't be back the next Sunday. He was moving away. And so Doug started covering until we could find someone else. And we tried and couldn't find anybody else. And so I remember talking to a missionary couple who were visiting, older, and we talked to them and said, Doug doesn't want to be a pastor. I don't want to be a pastor's wife. What are we going to do? And he said, well, I guess you better put on your hip waders.
What does that mean?
I guess I took it to mean like put on your hip waders, like those big.
Oh, the big suits?
Those big, I guess, for fishing or whatever.
You're about to be in deep.
But I could tell what he meant. It was like, you're going to have to just do what you're called to do. Wow. It's not about whether you wanted to be a pastor's wife or a pastor. Is that what God is calling you to do? So it was like, okay.
There it is.
There it is. Yeah.
I thought you were about to say, Doug said, I don't want to be a pastor. And then I was like, I don't want to be a pastor.
Oh, yeah.
Pastor's wife.
Yeah, pastor's
You don't want to be a pastor.
Oh, yeah. And I was a pastor's wife. I wanted to be Doug's wife, whatever he was doing.
Yeah.
So I feel like my role's been a cheerleader all the way.
Well, I'm so glad that you guys said yes to that because...
Oh, I am too.
Yeah. I mean, look what the Lord has done.
I know. He knows.
You wouldn't have never imagined what all of that was going to turn into.
Right. So it's clearly all of God and just being obedient and doing the next thing, whether you think you're up to it or qualified or just doing what you're called to do.
And trusting Him along the way.
Amen.
With however that looks.
To that.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Well, you and Doug have been a significant means of grace to so many people because of God's kindness. When it comes, especially, I think in a lot of ways, but when it comes to parenting, you teach from God's word very practically and about parenting joyfully and raising children in the Lord. And the way that you guys talk about it is just such a healthy balance of faithful parenting, staying consistent, being wise, but doing so with lightheartedness and joy. And sometimes I think that can be a really hard balance to strike. So who or what has influenced you guys in this area over the years? I know you said that he came from a godly home, but I'm just so curious.
Well, my home, I had great parents, wonderful parents who were really sacrificial. So when I say we weren't Christians, it's just we didn't know you had to be born again. We missed that. But at any rate, I grew up in a really fun home. I mean, it was just a pleasure always. I would say we hit the bumpy parts when I was in college. Is when my parents were hitting the bumpy parts too. It's like God was showing us you can't do it on your own steam, you know. But growing up, my dad was so much fun and would play games with us. We didn't have a television in those years, and he was very entertaining. And just loved the kids, would spend time with us after work every day. We would do tricks where he'd hold us up on his hands, you know, and do it all. I mean, he was just so much fun. And taught us how to water ski, he just was a really great dad. And Mom
seems very involved.
Yes. And Mom was the same way. She was my Brownie Scout leader, my Girl Scout leader. She taught me all kinds of, she was just a sweet, lovely, generous lady. And I always got along famously with her. You know, it's just, so I think I inherited a lot of the fun factor. And it was not drudgery. She was a busy, fruitful lady and involved in our lives. And sewing, she loved to sew. She made most of our clothes, at least mine. I'm not my brother's. And my older sister, I'm sure she sewed for her as well. She's 8 years older, so I wasn't always paying attention to what she was doing. She was in another league than I was. But Doug also came from a very jolly family. They grew up on Gilbert and Sullivan, which are those comedic musicals, and like Pirates of Penzance and so forth. And he could sing them and understand the humor. So when we got married, I really was not aware of Gilbert and Sullivan, but maybe his parents, maybe I'd heard of them from them, but they would sing the songs. They knew the lines. They appreciated the humor, which I don't always think is that funny, but and P.G. Woodhouse, he also, brought that along. And I hadn't read any Woodhouse. And so now I've read tons of Woodhouse, and our family quotes lines, funny lines from Woodhouse. So our kids grew up on that as well. So it's just like, we had fun. We weren't scheduling it like, okay, at this hour we'll have fun time. It just slopped over into everything. It just wasn't a dead serious at all times kind of house. And I had to learn to laugh at things that maybe I wasn't, as an unbeliever, wouldn't have thought were funny. Like when I had made Doug a 3-layer or 4-layer birthday cake and put it in the fridge. And when I opened the fridge, it fell out on the floor.
Oh, sad.
Which was very funny.
Oh,
You have to look at things with a little sense of humor.
Yes, you guys are so good at that.
Well, but sometimes, for me anyway, I remember being corrected mid-event, either by the Lord, because one time one of the kids had spilled milk, and I didn't react in a great way. I mean, I didn't scream or yell, but it was like an annoyance.
Yeah.
And with that, I picked up the gallon and promptly dropped it, the whole gallon, all over the floor. And so I was like, thank you, Lord. I'm humbled. I see your point. I get your point.
That's so funny.
So those are like great family stories right there.
Oh, yes. That's so good. Yeah, you have to learn to laugh. And that's something that I'm in the process of learning to do with my kiddos. I can be very, very goofy, and we have our goofy moments, but learning to be lighthearted in the day-to-day, because there's so much day-to-day. There's chores, there's school, there's a lot of things that you have to focus and do, but to be able to do those things with joy, it takes practice, I think, for some of us.
And I think just nature offers so much joy just in observing what's going on in the day outside. And, having the kids get to interact with, the birds and little animals, and just taking them out in it, and the snowmen and all the rest of it. There's just a lot of joy outside and in.
Yeah. That's good. So you guys have talked about parenting and joy and lightheartedness and faithfulness in parenting in a couple of other books. You guys did, or Doug wrote Why Children Matter, right? Was that just him, or was that you both together?
No, that was Doug. Yeah.
And then he wrote Future Men, which is a favorite in our home. My husband's on his nightstand right now. And now we have Future Women, which, yes. Yay. I was so excited to see that. So what brought you to write Future Women, and how did that come about?
All right.
And thank you for writing it.
Well, thank you. So it's not like it just came up recently and we thought, oh, what a good idea. It's been sort of on the back burner for a long time. And it just finally moved up to the front burner, basically. And I was going to write it with my girls. And Becca reminds me she did her part. But somehow, life is distracting and we are busy. And so it just didn't happen. And finally, the editor at Canon just said, Nancy, this is your job. So
you just got to do it.
So that's why, that's why it happened. And it's, Doug writes, he just doesn't ever stop. For me, it is a timeout, sit down. We've got to sit down and write this thing. So I'm just grateful. I'm so grateful that I had the assignment. I work better under pressure. You have a deadline. This must be done. And that it's true. I just work better when I know I have to get it done on things like that, not on things that are just natural, enjoyable to me. It's not that I don't enjoy writing. I do, but it is also concentration and work and effort. And it's great. Sitting down at my computer, that's sitting instead of up and doing.
Yeah.
So it's a discipline.
It is, yes. Well, I'm glad that you took what was in your head and in your heart and put it on paper, and took the time to do that. So
the time was right. Whatever the reason, I think is just with God's timing. So I'm grateful.
I'm so glad. So do you sit big chunks of time? Is this an all day thing, or is it several hours at a time? Or?
No, I think when I was doing this, it would be my big goal to get a chapter written a day.
Whoa.
So sit down. And sometimes I had to break. I couldn't just fire it out, but get up,
Yeah.
take a break, maybe come back to it tomorrow. So no, I cannot spend the day at a desk very easily.
No.
I'm just not that, I don't know. I don't
I
know
didn't
how
know
to
what you
do
mean
that.
by pump it out, basically. If you meet a deadline, does that mean you're just going to be up 24 hours writing this thing? Or?
No, it was a good arrangement because at the same time that I needed to get this done, Logos asked me to teach an elective at Logos School for the girls, high school girls. And I said, well, I'll do it if I can teach a class called Future Women.
Oh, well, that's awesome.
So once a week, I would write something, outline it, but the audience was different. I mean, it was for high school girls, not for moms. But it would still help me get back into the subject material and paying attention and bouncing things off of these gals, sweet girls. And that was very helpful. Then when the semester ended, that's after Christmas, then I started in earnest in January, like, okay, it's time.
That's great. You didn't have to get the engine going from zero,
That was very providential.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You had the wheels turning for a little bit before you had to sit down and write that.
Yes.
That is very nice.
Well, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
If I could insert this, I also listened again to Barbara Mauser's 5 Aspects of Woman. It's an old tape series, I guess maybe 90s. I'm not really sure. I'd have to go back and double check. Have you ever heard of that, Barbara Mauser?
I haven't. What is it?
It's just called 5 Aspects of Woman. And I do a quick summary at the very beginning of the book of that series. You can get it still. I found it online and listened to her old tapes. And I realize how much we like to speed things up. Now we have that leisure of increasing the speed. I'll listen to it 1.2 or 1.5. But hers is just the old cassette tapes. And I listened to them once when I was painting the family room years ago. And they're so excellent. So I did a revisit, mostly in my car, listening to them again to refresh on writing my book. And it's so solid, such good material. I heartily recommend it. And her husband did 5 Aspects of Men. And Doug mentions that as well in the beginning of Future Men. So I don't develop it then later, but I just mention it.
Did you talk it? Oh, I see. Okay. I just missed that part. So I was wondering where. Not the it was in the intro.
Yeah. It's just in the early. Right.
So do you have a tape player still? Or is this on CD?
No, I actually had been downloaded online.
Oh, okay.
But they were still, the download was just the tape. And I couldn't speed it up. Or if I could have, I don't think I could have. For some reason, I tried. Maybe I didn't have the skill, but that's just the way it was. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I'll have to check it out.
On the website. Yeah. Do.
Yes, I will. I'm always looking for solid resources. Because one day I want to write a book, but it might be on the back burner for a very long time. Just got a typewriter, actually. To make it kind of fun. But anyway, so in your book, you talk about you argue the case for the having a high view of you call it in italics vocation of just domesticity,
right?
And really, you cast a really beautiful vision for raising a daughter to be confident and gracious, skilled, happy, not doing all these things with drudgery, but happy and equipped to be able to shoulder the massive responsibility that it is to manage a home and to love her family and to do so cheerfully. So a couple of questions to that. In order to prepare them to be skilled to, quote, run the home on all cylinders, which I love that, and to be capable here, we have to teach them how to steward the home. But you also, as usual, you strike a really healthy balance. You also talk about that it's counterproductive to pile on too heavy of a weight of responsibility on our girls. So how do you know that you're striking a healthy balance here, teaching them work ethic and to be domestically capable without it crossing over into burdening them and it being at the point of being counterproductive?
All right. Well, mom has to have a good radar to know how her girls are doing. That's the first thing. Because I really wanted not everything, because you can't have it this way for everything, but it's a get to, not a got to. You get to help me make the bread. It's not, you have to get in here right now and make the bread. So it was just leaning into that urge they have when they're little to want to try things and do things and to bring them alongside and help me fold the clothes. But while you're doing it, you're talking and having a good time and maybe telling stories when they're little. And, as they get older, you want them to know how to do all these things, but you don't want to beat them over the head with it all the time.
Yeah.
So our girls were going to school full time, so they had a heavy day. And I didn't want them to come home and then slam them with a to-do list. And part of the time I was teaching part-time when Rachel was in, I think, 3rd grade. So that would have put Nate in 5th and Becca in 7th. That's when I started teaching just part-time. But I would get home and throw in the load of laundry, as soon as I walked in the door and get going on dinner or whatever. So, but they were there all day and then they had homework. So we wanted them to have a realistic amount of homework, housework, as opposed to their schoolwork. And they learned, they would do their homework. I had to be at school at 7:45 for a teacher meeting. And so we would leave the house at 7:30 and then they would just finish their homework in the auditorium while I was at the meeting. So they hated homework. So they would do it at school as much as they could, during school hours. So get that done so they were free. Then they were done. The evening was free. Doug did a lot of reading in the evenings to them aloud. Books and books and books and books, even when they were old enough to read themselves. So we wanted the evenings to be a great time together as a family and not everybody hit the books, but it was never a requirement. Everyone show up for family time. We are having it whether you like it or not, because that's a got to, not a get to. Right. But with my girls, I would say they were courageous. They are courageous. They're not afraid to take on so much. And so they are, they're not timid or unsure of themselves. They figure they can do it. So off they go and do it. And I stand back in awe. Like my mom used to say to me, and I didn't quite get it at the time. She'd say, I could not drag a rope around behind you, Nancy, when the kids were little. And I was like, Mom, I'm not doing anything amazing. And now I look at my girls like, I could not drag a rope around behind you. So they may be doing things that I don't have the skills to do, or I wouldn't have been inclined to do, or they're doing it a different way, or, well, they certainly have a bigger bunch of kids than I have. And Rachel has 8 and Becca has 5, and she's the grandma whose family is producing these great grandchildren for us so far. But so it's really setting your daughters loose, I think, also to do what they want. They want to learn to do X, Y, or Z. And it's like, well, get them the class. Get them a tutorial online or give them the book to read on how to do it. Get them the yarn and the needles and ask somebody to teach them how to do it. I had a friend, she's still alive, old lady now, but she did a little sewing class for little girls. Another lady in our congregation who's now with the Lord also did a little sewing group at her house when the kids were like elementary school. And she just had them doing really cute little projects. And it was just a real positive thing that they looked forward to. So that's what I think it is. And they're both very capable seamstresses now and knitters. Rachel's a knitter, all kinds of things. Becca's a designer, sewer, tackles anything without a pattern. It's just so I stood back and watched because I like to sew, but not that level. They pass me up, and that's the goal.
May that always be true for our kids.
Amen.
That is the goal, that our kids will go
Yes.
further. And
Pass us up.
Yeah, with the skills, with the faith,
Right.
may they only go further up and further in.
Yeah.
That's what we tell our kids. So you're saying give them things that they enjoy doing that they would want to be diligent in. So,
Right.
example, my daughter loves piano, so she has no problem doing that every day.
It's great.
What about the things that they might not love doing, but they still need to do? So there's school, but if they need to, help steward the home. So not overburden them with chores over the top, but they're still helping some. Did your kiddos help some during the school year, or was that mostly on Saturdays, or how did that go?
Okay. So I really get it that if you are schooling at home, it's more difficult to define, where our kids left and they came home. Mm-hmm. And I was really running the home. I was making it happen there. And when I was teaching, I didn't teach full time until the first two were gone and Rachel was a senior. So I taught full time 1 year, and that was great and it was fun. But I did not do that intentionally when I still had too much to do at home. I couldn't manage that. So, anyway, I understand that you've got, during the day you're trying to teach your subject, but you're also throwing in a load of wash, or sometime in the day you've got to go to the grocery store, or there's just so many things to do. So I understand it's more difficult, but I guess the more that you can keep the kids on task with their school work to get it done, done and dusted, while you're snoopervising. That's what I call it.
What does that mean?
You're snoopervising, you're keeping an eye on them, but you're not hovering over them with every last detail. Yeah. But you are getting your work done too, and not feeling like you have to just sit there all day long with everybody, but giving them, and I understand that requires so much organization. I mean, hats off. Because
I'm still learning.
Because when we took them to Logos, I knew there was a teacher whose specialty was math, who was going to teach them math. I did not have a math background. I was a lit major. I think I got through geometry and maybe algebra too. You see what I mean?
Same,
and my kids had trigonometry in high school and physics, and praise the Lord. So
not something that I would be able to do very well.
You could? Yeah.
I could not.
No. You could not. So I'm just saying we had a division of labor that made it easier in many ways, obviously. So I'm just saying, I understand with homeschooling, you have a different kind of challenge. So it requires a lot of creativity and scheduling and keeping kids on track. And I would say rewarding them, like, you got it. If you get it done by this time, we're going to peel off and go to the park, or we're going to do something as, and it's not all, okay, now you're done. So now do your chores. And, even the chores, I think we want them to be the kind of things that we're bestowing on them. We're giving them a responsibility. Like, you've reached this age and I think you can handle this. So that you got to find that sweet spot. And certainly there are other things that it's just a requirement.
Yeah.
And do it cheerfully. You have to do it, but you have to do it cheerfully. Yes. And no fussing and no whining and all the rest of it.
From mom or the kids.
From
but it starts with mom and dad.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Does that answer your question?
It does. Yeah. We're trying to figure out that line of not, especially because we're moving into a more rigorous curriculum next year. So it is causing me to think, or it's causing me to ask the question of, okay, well, we've always done it this way, but that's not going to work this year because now we're doing 5 days a week and not 4. That's not an option. So anyway, just trying to think, it's going to be a more rigorous education, I would think, than last year. And so, yeah, just trying to figure out that balance of I don't want to boil my children in their mother's milk, when it comes to academics and running the home. But yeah, I've always said, if you help make the mess in the home, you also, or if you live in the home and you help make the mess, you also get to help steward the home, So anyway, yeah, I think it's just it is a balance, and it takes wisdom and prayer and the Holy Spirit to figure out what that looks like for each home, it sounds like.
So my dad, I mentioned he was a fun guy. He had us each of the kids, I just remember mine and my little brothers, but we had a spiral notebook and we had an allowance, but he taught us how we had to put the date, like a checkbook kind of, the date, the job we did, how much he said he would pay us, and then keep a total. And then when he paid us, he would sign the book. But that involved, simple chores and things to get our allowance. And it also taught us bookkeeping.
Oh.
But that was really great. I mean, you could always do that.
Yeah,
there's nothing wrong with paying your kids to help do things, because if you want to hire someone to come in and help you with housework or help with the teaching, you're going to be paying them. So
that's a good thought. I've always had the mind of this is just part of stewarding the home. We're not getting paid over here, but at the same time, I can see your point. And we have some dear friends who are very close friends of ours. Dad is a financial advisor. And so, of course, he pays his kids to do the chores because he wants to teach them how to steward the money and how to save and how to be generous and how to tithe. And so anyway, that's a really good thought. That's something that we would need to talk about. Right. That makes sense.
And the other possibility is hiring people to help, because of course that's what a school ends up being. We've hired people to help.
Yes.
But here in Moscow we have there's a couple of different schools that meet one day a week, just on Fridays, but they also, I need to know more about them, but it's like for homeschooling parents, and the parents will help teach a class. So they offer a few classes during the week, and then on Fridays, they all get together and as a big group. It's a homeschool co-op is what it is. And I'm sure you've heard of those. But we have a couple here in Moscow, as well as Logos, and then a lot of homeschoolers doing all kinds of things.
I would love to visit Moscow. We've heard so many great things. We've got some good friends whose kids are at NSA right now. And yeah, you guys have really built a solid culture up there. It's awesome.
Well, clearly God has done it. So
right, of course, yes.
It's pretty amazing. It's wonderful. And it has plenty of problems, just like everywhere else.
Yeah.
It's far from perfect.
Right.
So it's a work in progress.
Yes, of course. Not this side of heaven. There's nothing that's going to be perfect, but it is. God has done great things where you guys are at.
He really has. We're honored to get to see it with our eyes. Yeah.
It's amazing. Very rare, I would say, do you get to see the fruit that you guys have seen in your lifetime. Anyway, that's beside the point, but it's really so wonderful. A classical movement. We're over here doing classical Memoria Press because really of the work that Doug has done. So,
and it's not Doug by himself. Certainly, it's not me by myself. In our community, certainly not. The two of us pulled this off.
Right, of course.
It's like hundreds of people with their sleeves rolled up.
The church.
It's a lot. Yeah.
Yes.
So
yes, but. It's wonderful when all these measures of grace, all these people carrying these different measures of grace are working together. When we're all working in our capacity and the grace that God's given us, the church is built up, and we're seeing that happen.
It's funny because when we were first married, Doug was a student and a college student on the GI Bill, and I was a graduate. So one day I said, "So what do you want to do, like when you're done with school?"
What do you want to do when you grow up?
This is after we're married. So what do you want to do when you're done? And he said, change the world. And I was
Aw.
like, okay, I'm good with that. But
That's so cool.
he went fast.
Yes, he
You know, and he
did.
got a master's, but then he has made a dent. He has. So
He has. Yeah.
he has. Yeah.
Praise the Lord. In a few places, just kind of going back to the book, you say in your book that it's our duty as parents to teach our girls to be secure and confident, because I think a lot of they can be they can have proclivities to be insecure, and so we have to teach them to be secure and confident in who they are in Christ. And you said, you even said that your hope when your girls were growing up is that a man who pursued your daughter eventually would have to stand up tall to impress them. Right. And I've seen girls of that caliber, and it's beautiful. And so I love that. How do we teach and equip our daughters to be secure? How do we teach that, to be secure in who they are in Christ? You talk about this in the book, but can you unpack that?
Sure.
Here.
And, really, I learned this from my husband. I mean, so much of the book, it's like, guess where I learned that? But when the girls were little, I remember this clearly. Somebody gave us, with the firstborn, I remember Doug saying, I don't want any blankets in the house with a satin edge on them. Because you see little babies who are hung up on that little piece of satin. And so it was great. Nope, I got it. He said, because it turns into their security. And then somebody gave us one. And it happened right away. And it was so cute, just that little. And he said, get that thing out of here, because we want their security to be in us, not in a blanket or a stuffed animal, but in us. And then that will transfer to the Lord when they're old enough to understand, but that we're the security blanket. And so no props. And that's kind of radical. I'd never heard that before. I'd never thought of it, but it made perfect sense.
Yeah.
And so it's not like, so that was just a feature. Like we would keep them from becoming dependent on something external like that. And I only remember it in relation to the blanket. And their stuffed animals, there was never one that was so dear. It wasn't. But, so also Doug, the other thing is, of course, we wanted them well educated to be thinkers and not held back or shortchanged in any way. We wanted to provide them a fine education. So 8th grade, they got logic, and learning, and plus around the dinner table every night, just the instruction and the back and forth, the kids reporting about their days and interactions in the classrooms and what's going on in the backyard. And I think that time of debriefing every day helped build a lot of security where we listened. And of course, the Lord just gave us 3 kids. I'm grateful. But the 3 is around the dinner table, the 5 of us, we all fit, and and I understand if there are 8, it can be challenging, but it can still be done. It's like Doug would say, all right, you go first, and then and take a number. But they would debrief from the day, and we would hash things out and talk things over. And a lot of instruction would happen there. And one time, part of the security, I hope this relates, but one time at the dinner table, our older daughter, Becca, said there was this kid in her class who was such a loser, and whining at her and trying to get attention from her. And what should she do? And Doug said, Becca, life's too short to talk to wimpy guys. And so a couple of days later, this kid called, and Rachel answered the phone. And he was like, is Becca there? And she said, no, she's not. And he was like, where is she? And blah, blah, blah. And Rachel goes, who was probably like in 5th grade. She said his name and she said, "Life's too short to talk to wimpy guys." And he said, "Rachel, I'm going to tell your dad that you said that." And she said, "That's okay because he's the one who said it." So he quit calling. Life's too short to talk to wimpy guys. And that's
funny.
just dad speaking as like, oh, that makes sense. Okay, I get it. But it wasn't like you may not, we're making a rule. It's just wisdom. And Doug did that kind of thing all the time around the table, pastoring the kids, teaching them informally. And he's very funny. Like that comment was pretty funny. And it's like, well, that sums it up right there. Because he was a whiner, crier, poor me kind of guy. So I'm just saying that wisdom just comes in the day-to-day, helping the girls be secure and knowing dad is looking out for them and mom is. And heads up, if I saw something, I might talk to Doug about it. Like, what do you think we should do about this? And, I don't remember the issue, but I remember him saying, "I got it. No worries. I'll take care of it." And it's like, okay, great. And then he would teach on it or handle it. But I would just give him those kinds of heads up as we're going along. And I think telling girls, verbalizing that you love them, that they look pretty. And I remember teaching them, we want you to be pretty on the inside, not just the outside. Because you can have on a pretty dress and have a snarly attitude. It's not pretty. So we want it to match. But then bestowing on them so they did feel pretty. They did feel loved, secure. And I can remember as a little kid, because mom would take such pains to put me together every day for elementary school. But I would look at some of the little girls in my class who looked so disheveled and just feel like they needed a mom, that loved them. And not feeling superior, but wishing I could help. Wishing I could get her some socks that match. I mean, these are the days where we wore, little dresses to school and anklets. And, so it was just something I felt loved as a little girl. And then having my girls have that same experience. Somebody cares about you. Somebody's not going to let you run out the door with a bedhead. So
you walk out the door looking like a child who is loved because you are loved.
Yeah.
That's a good solid concept. That's what I tell our kids. I'm like, okay, guys, if we're going to go to Costco,
oh yeah,
we're not going to dress up we don't have to dress like we're going to church, but you do need to look like we love you. Let's go brush our hair.
No pajamas.
No pajamas, which we don't do pajamas beyond breakfast. But
I would say that's a good thing about homeschool. Like you will get dressed for school. This is business. We're going to the office.
My daughter asked me yesterday, "Mom, why don't we wear uniforms for homeschool?" I was like, I mean, we could, but
it might make it easier.
It might. That's true.
Yeah, and it makes it more professional and more like this is business. Yeah, I think it's good.
So basically you're saying listen, you're spending time really listening intentionally to your daughters. You're inviting them to critically think and think through things. You're being lighthearted about it. And you're intentional to show them affection and to compliment them and smile at them and show that you delight in them.
Yeah. And asking questions.
Asking questions, listening to the answers. Even when they're silly, maybe when they're little and they're telling you the silly stories or whatever. That really lays the groundwork probably for the more serious discussions later.
And mom has to seek forgiveness if she is not being sweet or she was grumpy or she was, it's please forgive me. I was wrong. Not just sorry about that.
Yeah, that was wrong. Even if it's day after day, the Lord transforms us from glory to glory. Yes. So sanctification is slow, but yes.
And preventative prayer.
Yes. And the
Here
more
I
like,
go, Lord, please give me
help me.
grace not to react, to act, not react. Because teaching with a classroom of 20 kids, there are many provocations.
Yes.
As just keeping your sense of humor, not losing it. It takes a lot of prayer and
It
discipline.
does. Yes. My prayer every
Challenging.
day is like a liturgy. Lord, help me be the gracious woman who gets honor. Help me be the gracious woman who gets honor. Because yes,
That's great.
especially when you're schooling not even 20 but 4, and then you've
Right.
got the baby and the toddler
Right.
trying to
Oh, yeah.
stay focused with that. It can be easy to react. And it really does take supernatural power from the Lord to
Right. And it
to
might,
respond.
and it might take also some more, just help.
I know,
Because
yeah.
a toddler and a baby and 4 students, I couldn't have taken a toddler and a baby to school
It's a lot.
and tried to do it all.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
I'm
Yeah.
currently searching for a mother's helper, so
Good.
so far it's not worked, but we're still looking.
Yeah.
So anyway,
It's great.
Well, we're already 50 minutes in, and so I want to honor your time, but I still have a couple of questions. Are you okay if I
I'll
ask?
try and be quicker on the response.
Oh, no, it's okay. I love whatever you want to share. That's what we're here for.
Okay.
This is all very good. So, speaking of education, you talk about the importance of giving our daughters a solid education. You talked about that already some today. And for some people, as you probably know, this can be very counterintuitive to focus on
Right.
the vocation of domesticity, but also giving a solid education. So can you share why these two things are not mutually exclusive and how academics can really help a woman in her domestic calling?
Yeah, on my word. And it's almost intangible. But
Yeah.
just learning to think is a
Mhm.
skill. And not being bored. Having to do hard things and learn hard things and memorize all of this is building muscle. It's like, well, do women need to work out or lift weights to be a mom at home? Well, yes and no. If you're just going to sit all day, you're not going to be very strong for hauling things around, even a baby. But just physically strong, spiritually strong, and mentally strong. You'll never regret it. You'll never regret having gotten a good education. And maybe you won't apply that one class any way you know, but what was it doing for your brain to memorize it all and to learn how to do those problems? And it's amazing how often it comes in use, isn't it?
Oh, yes.
It comes in use all the time.
It does.
The skills you learned at school. And if you quit after 8th grade or quit after 10th grade, it would have been a harder climb. I'm not making like an arbitrary cutoff or anything. Not every girl has the opportunity to go to college, but as much as is possible, we wanted to give our kids the best education we could. And so by the grace of God, we did. But they learned how to learn. And so they're still learning. They're learners. And they're not intimidated to learn new material as adults. And so it's the kind of thing, education, that even if you don't remember, you can't say all the presidents in the right order anymore. What did that do for you? What did that exercise give you? It gave you something really valuable. It's amazing how much you might remember. But someday you're going to be teaching your own kids. And are they going to just pass you up? Well, that's the goal, really, to pass you up. But just to love learning, God made a big world and there's so much to learn. And not to give up and say, well, I'm just going to be doing dishes, so I just need to know where to put the laundry soap or where to put the dishwasher soap and how to plug, how the iron works. It's like, no, actually, if you want to help a man who is well-educated, he's going to need a well-educated wife. And if you want your husband to be challenged in a good way, encouraged in a good way, you need a wife who knows how to do that. And obviously, the most important thing is to be women of the word We wanted our kids to be eager Bible readers and understand the Bible, learn all the Bible stories and whatnot. So it all ties together, though.
It does. And it's such, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, and so as much as is possible, I think we should give them as much as we can. Not, I mean, you have a PhD. I'm not saying every woman needs to get that, but in God's providence, you got one.
Yeah,
and
I did.
I'm sure that there are many positive blessings as a result of that. So I don't have one, but I had no desire for that either. So it's a combination of desire and opportunities. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, we didn't get married till we were 30. And so it was just the next thing that was right in front of me. So why not?
Yeah.
There was no guy around at the time. Yeah. But yeah, I have often, early on, I wondered, what in the world did I get this for? And I still don't know how the Lord's going to use it. But I will say, I mean, education is just so layered, and I have a couple of thoughts. One is, well, a student is not going to be above his teacher. I mean, we hope that our kids surpass us, but biblically, if mom doesn't value learning or education or doesn't think that it's important to think, how are her children going to be equipped to love learning and to love to think and to learn how to think? We've got to set the standard,
right? And
our attitudes and our and yes, education is just so layered. I remember when I was in school, all the articles you had to read, you read and you read. You talk about sitting at a desk all day.
It's still that way. Yeah.
Yes, but you don't remember. You remember very little of what you've read. You're packing your head with all this information, and it does come out eventually in different forms. But that's often just how education is. It's just so...
And it's building character, though.
It's building character.
It
is. You learn
doing
how to
hard things.
Perseverance. You grow in faithfulness. And there are many, many ways to grow in faithfulness and perseverance. But yes, with academics, you learn to communicate better. You learn to think.
Yes. Yeah.
Especially if you're in a pagan university, which I don't necessarily recommend. That's where I was.
Right.
It was a cesspool, and I had to learn how to think like a Christian in a cesspool.
Right.
How do when I have a professor who is a woman who loves women and hates the Lord and is teaching philosophy, how do I speak in class whenever I'm asked a question? Anyway, so all that to say, it's much better to be raised in a Christian education. So much better. That's
absolutely.
Why we have our kids in homes.
Yes.
We're very much wanting our children to be raised in a Christian education and are pursuing that.
And you want them to have a Christian worldview so they know how to see the garbage and identify it and how to respond to it and what the Bible says about it and why that's evil. And you get that by getting a good education and learning intentionally, like at NSA, where they intentionally emphasize that, of course, and Logos did too. Well, what is this author saying? Is it true? And that's so good for our kids.
It's so important. Yes, it's so important. When I first became a Christian, I became a Christian in my mid-20s. And a few years later, started babysitting every week for my pastor and his wife, just because I wanted to learn what it was like to be in the home and to raise kids. They have 5 kids. And so I would just kind of take over whatever mom was doing for the day, and she would go out and take care of stuff, or they'd go on a date. So anyway, that was the first time I'd encountered classical education. And I saw their child. I was helping him with a science homework, and I think they did Apologia or something for science. And it was a God-centered worldview in a science book. And I had never seen that before in my life. And my mind was blown, and I was jealous of their education. I was like, this is fantastic. And then their daughter had to later, several years later, she was taking a logic class, and she had to argue abortion from both sides, or had to debate it from both sides.
Right.
I was like, I don't know if I could do that. Like, what a skill to teach your daughters to think, not what to think. And of course, we catechize our kids and we teach them the ways of the Lord. But you're teaching them what to think. You're teaching them the ways of the Lord. You're raising them up, but you're also teaching them how to think for themselves. And what a skill. And yes, that absolutely serves in the home.
Well, and going back to Psalm 144, we want our daughters to be pillars or columns. They are bearing a lot of weight culturally and having an impact. And they're strong and they're beautiful and they have a purpose. Those columns in the palace style.
In the palace style. Love that.
Yeah. That it's noble.
Yes. Yes. All very good, Nancy. Well, thank you so much. I want to respect your time. We're already at an
thank
hour.
you. Thanks for having me. It was great to visit.
This was such a blessing, and so many good things. If whoever is listening to this, if you have not read Future Women yet, I highly recommend reading it. It's been a great book so far. Nancy, can you tell them where they can find it?
canonpress.com.
Okay.
There you go.
All right. Go grab you a copy. I'll link it down below.
Thank you.
In the show notes.
All right.
Thank you for being here.
Blessings.
Blessings to you too. Bye, Nancy.
Bye.